Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we're going to talk about something you've probably done 1,000 times in video games, but maybe never really stopped to think about. The humble quest. It might seem like just a to-do list, but it's the secret sauce that turns simple games into these massive, living worlds we have today.
So to really get it, we have to start with this big, fundamental question that's been at the center of game design for, well, forever. It's this constant tug of war, this tension between two different goals. Are we here to play a game, or are we here to experience a story?
You've got these two camps, right? On one side, it's all about the pure spectacle. The action, the reflexes, racking up a high score, the jaw-dropping graphics. It's the game part of video game. But on the other side, you have the pull of a great narrative. You know, characters you care about, a plot that hooks you, puzzles that make you think.
And for the longest time, these two worlds didn't really mix all that well. You'd get a game with amazing action, but the story was kind of paper thin. Or you'd get a great story, but the gameplay felt like it was just getting in the way. It was a real problem, until designers found this really elegant way to build a bridge between them.
And that solution? It was the quest. I know, it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Just a task list. But honestly, this was a stroke of genius. It's so much more than it looks. Because here's the magic of it, right here. A quest is a simple, beautiful loop. It takes an action, the what you do in the game, and it wraps it in a story, the why you're doing it. It perfectly marries the gameplay to the narrative, giving you a story-based reason to go out and, do stuff.
And this quote from theorist Ragnell Tronstad absolutely nails it. Quests are all about doing. They're performative. You're not just a passive audience watching a story unfold. No, you are an active part of it. You are literally performing the story. That simple shift changes everything.
Okay, so let's pop the hood on this thing. What are the actual gears that make a quest work? What are the essential parts of this little storytelling engine?
Well, when you boil it down, you find these 5 core components. And what's wild is that this is basically the DNA of any story. You've got to have characters, the people giving the quest, and the hero, that's you. You need causality, the motivation, the why. You need a space, a world to act as the stage for the drama. Of course, you need challenges, or there's no conflict. And finally, you need objects. The treasure, the key, the magic sword. Put them all together and every single quest becomes its own complete mini-story. So we have our basic recipe for a quest. But this is where it gets really, really cool. Because as games got bigger and more ambitious, the quest had to evolve too. And that evolution is all about giving you, the player, more and more power.
And you can see that whole journey right here. I mean, look at this. We went from just following along a set story to getting to choose our story, and finally, to actually building the story alongside millions of other people. It's a huge shift in the player's role.
Let's go back a bit. In those early adventure games, the structure was often called a pearl necklace. It's a great metaphor, right? Each quest, each puzzle was a perfect, self-contained pearl. But they were all on one string, in a fixed order. You had to follow the path from start to finish. No detours.
But then computer RPGs came along and just blew that wide open. This was revolutionary. For the first time, you could just ignore the main story. A dragon is threatening to burn down the world? Whatever. I'm going to go help that farmer find his lost chickens. This was the birth of the side quest, and it gave players true freedom to create their own journey.
And that very freedom, the ability to choose your own path, set the stage for the next incredible leap. This is where quests stopped just telling a story and started building an entire world.
And that brings us to the MMORPG. In these gigantic online spaces, quests aren't just a feature. They are the fundamental building blocks of the whole experience. It's all made possible by this incredibly powerful idea called a serialized narrative.
What's that? Honestly, the best way to get it is to think about your favorite binge-worthy TV show. Each quest you do is like one episode. It's got its own little plot, its own characters, its own resolution. But when you do a bunch of them, you start to see how they connect, weaving together a much larger, epic story. It's like you're living inside a whole season of a show instead of just watching it. So for a perfect example, look at this classic quest line from World of Warcraft. It isn't just one task. It's a whole story arc. First, you hear about a threat. Then you investigate it.
Then you see the victims and the impact it's having. And finally, you get the big climax where you take down the leader. It's a perfect little 3-act structure, all built out of 4 interlocking quests.
So you can just see the complexity explode. We go from a single, straight line in adventure games to a main line with a few detours in RPGs to this huge, tangled, beautiful web of countless stories all connected to each other. It's a totally different universe of storytelling.
And the result of all this is a world that feels incredibly rich and alive, built piece by piece from thousands of these tiny story bricks. But, and this is a big but, it creates some very strange and, frankly, kind of funny problems.
So what happens? What happens when you have millions of people all trying to be the one and only hero of the same story at the exact same time?
Well, you get something that we can call the Garrick-Padfoot paradox. And it's the perfect way to understand the weird logic that has to happen behind the scenes to make these worlds work for everyone.
Okay, just picture it. You finally defeat the villain, Garrick-Padfoot. His body is lying at your feet. Victory is yours. And then he just pops back into existence. A brand new Garrick-Padfoot is standing right there, literally on top of his own corpse, just waiting for the next player in line. The world has to break its own rules of time and space, creating these little paradoxes so that every single player gets to have that heroic moment.
And as strange as that seems, it's absolutely necessary when you're dealing with numbers on this scale. You've got more than 11 million players here, and every single one of them needs to feel like the star of the show. And if that means a villain has to die 1,000 deaths a minute, well, that's just what it takes.
So to wrap this all up, the quest is so much more than a to-do list. It's a truly revolutionary storytelling tool. It solved that old conflict between gameplay and story. It evolved to give us real freedom and choice. It made these massive, shared worlds possible. And maybe the biggest thing of all, it turned us from just followers of a story into the actual builders of that story.
And this whole incredible evolution, from a simple task to a world-building engine, it leaves us with one last huge question to think about. If this is how far quests have already come, what kind of stories are we going to be living inside of next?